Hey there, happy Monday everybody! If you're here in the United States like I am, this is 4th of July week, and if you saw the sour green apple ice cream episode, I mentioned in the comments, it was something that hit me well after editing, that I could make a patriotic rainbow sherbet. So I've started with my sherbet base. I mixed up a batch and a half. This is 1 cup of sugar and a cup and a half of heavy cream, and I'm just going to divide them pretty evenly across these 3 containers. I actually ended up with a little more than a cup and a half of total, so we got a little bit of volume out of the sugar, and even now measuring them, they are still just a little bit uneven, so I'm just going to add a little bit more here and a tiny bit more here. And if we're going to do a patriotic rainbow sherbet, why not do Bomb Pop? You know, that's a classic summer treat that I recently just found out was created here in Kansas City. And the flavors for a Bomb Pop are cherry, lime, and blue raspberry. So let's address this starting with the cherry. So I have a cup of cherry juice that we will just add to this sugar and cream mixture. I'll go ahead and give this a stir. It's definitely going to need some red food coloring, but before we do that, I want to taste it and make sure that we don't need to make any adjustments as far as cherry flavor or sweetness. That's pretty nice. It's relatively tart, but I don't know that I need to add any sugar to up the ante, but I do want to add just a little bit more cherry flavor. So I have some cherry juice concentrate that we used back in the Black Forest ice cream. And as I said, we definitely will need some red food coloring here. I'm going to slide the lime out of the way. Just add a nice generous amount, knowing that the color will get lighter when it freezes from the air that we work into it. You know, I think a few more drops would not hurt. I am using gel food colorings. You can use liquid if that's what you have. I tend to keep gel on hand because I do make candies a lot, and when you make candies, you cannot use a water-based food coloring, or all of your sugar will just seize up into a block, and that's no fun. I'm pretty pleased with that red. I think that will work for us, so I'm just going to give it one last taste here, and I will throw a lid on it. You can churn this immediately since we didn't cook anything. I'm going to throw it in the fridge while I go ahead and address the other 2 flavors. So now we move on to the lime, and I am just going to use a cup of lime juice. Actually, I'm going to start with half of it and see if I need to augment with some whole milk, just because I worry that just straight up adding lime juice to this is going to make everything way too tart. So we're just going to add about half of this, and everything probably will curdle. That's okay, it works out in the churning process, plus we give it a stir before we add it to the churn. We'll see what I need to change here. That is a pretty strong lime flavor. I don't know that I want to add too much more of it. I will probably add another 1/4 cup, but to augment that, we'll add roughly a 1/4 cup of whole milk, just so that we have the right amount of volume. And let's just double check this one. Pleasantly tart, just a little tiny bit bitter. So we will lid it up and churn it after the cherry. Now, blue raspberry. Blue raspberry is an interesting flavor. As you probably know, it's not a naturally occurring flavor. I think I read an article in Bon Appetit magazine or online several years back. It's behind a paywall now, so I didn't pull it up for reference. But I believe that blue raspberry is made up of the esters, or the aromatic compounds, from cherries, bananas, and pineapple. So I'm going to incorporate that slightly to sort of make up the base of our juice. Here is blueberry. Now, shame on me for not just going to the store myself to find this. I had ordered blueberry juice, and I ended up with cranberry juice. Fortunately, I have some blueberries. I went ahead and just ran them through the blender and strained out as much as I could so that we have a juice. It's actually really thick, so it's not really juice. So I think if any of the flavors don't work out, it's going to be this one. but that's somewhat to be expected as an unnatural flavor. Blueberries, though, are purple, not blue. And pretty much no matter how much food coloring we add to this, it's not going to be able to overpower the purple. Purple is, as you know, red and blue together. Just adding more blue is not going to overcome that. So we're going to use a little chemistry trick. In science class, you may have boiled red cabbage and used it as a pH indicator. It turns blue in the presence of a base. The same is somewhat true of blueberries, so we're going to use some baking soda to create a slightly alkaline environment. I don't want to use too much because I don't want to overpower the flavor, and the baking soda is not going to turn this a blue. We will still have to use food coloring, but it does help to neutralize the color a little bit. So you see that it's turning a slight blue. It's still pretty purple, but it's not quite so overwhelming of a purple flavor, or of a purple color. So yeah, there's a lot of bubbles here as the baking soda reacts with the acid in the blueberries. A lot of that's going to work out over time, especially because this will be the third flavor that we churn. But you can see that it's turned a lot more blue rather than sort of a red purple. It's more of a blue purple. And I don't really want to add any more baking soda than the 1/4 teaspoon that I added because it could impact the flavor of the ice cream. If we need to, we may add a little bit more, but we'll see. So I'm just going to go ahead and pour this juice into the cream. I did fail to mention that I also put a splash of pineapple juice in here to sort of add the pineapple esters. Plus, we'll go ahead and add just a little shot of our cherry juice. So we have it's mostly white. There's a tinge of blue here. So luckily, I think it offset enough of the color that we can get to our blue with food coloring. So again, with our gel food coloring, this one is sky blue. I have a royal blue, but I want to see about the sky blue first. We could add a good 4 squeezes, 4 drops. And I think that's a pretty good Bomb Pop blue color. I don't know that I'll add any more, but we will go ahead and taste. It's not blue raspberry, but it's the gist of blue raspberry. So we'll go ahead and lid this one up. This will be the third flavor to get churned. All right, so we're going to start with the cherry, the red, and we'll go ahead and get this churning. Now this is about half of what I would normally make for a sherbet. I multiplied my starting recipe, my base, by 1.5. So this will not take too long to churn, maybe 20 minutes. And now we start thinking about the layering. So I want to fill these about 1/3 full with the cherry. A regular spoon might work better here because it will fit inside the container and I can push it down and sort of smooth off the top. And we're going to repeat this. I'm hoping, so a full batch usually gets me somewhere around 6 to 8 of these containers. So I'm hoping to get at least 5. And the part I struggle with when I'm making layered ice creams like this, something like a Neapolitan, I've not tried the rainbow sherbet before, but with the Neapolitan at least, it's getting everything portioned out just right so that we're about 1/3. We want this to be roughly even amounts in each container, so that somebody doesn't get stuck with an excess of the blue raspberry. So I did end up with 7 of these layered guys. I'm going to go ahead and throw a lid on them, and I want to put these in the freezer. I probably won't start the next batch for at least 20 to 30 minutes. That way it has an opportunity to freeze hard so that when we add the next layer on, we don't get any mixing. So I'm going to hurry up and get these all lidded up and into the freezer. As expected, it did curdle a little bit, but it's nothing that a good shake didn't take care of. And that was pretty much right on 20 minutes. We'll go ahead and get the standalone lime lidded up, and let's go get those other ice creams. So these have not frozen all the way hard, but there should be enough freezing that has happened that we can layer this on without mixing the colors. So we'll just go ahead and repeat for all of these, trying to fill this as close to the 2/3 line as possible. Again, we're eyeballing it, so it may not be exact. And with this second layer, you can't really push down into the ice cream with the spoon to get all of the air bubbles worked out. Best we can do is sort of pat on the back of it to try and get a nice even layer. This one may be a little full. I'm not sure that we're going to get any blue to fit on there. We'll go ahead and get these lidded up and back into the freezer. Again, 20 minutes before I even start the next round, just so that the lime has an opportunity to set. And finally, we are ready to churn the blue raspberry. Okay, we'll go ahead and get these layered. Now, some of them are going to be a little scant on the blue. It depends on how full I filled them with the other two, how well I eyeballed it. I definitely feel like I'm not using as much blue to top them off as I did with the red and the white, but that's okay because the blue raspberry is probably the weakest of the three flavors in here. Weakest as in the least flavorful, or the least tasty, the least delicious. This one's pretty full already, but I'm just gonna mash some more on top. We'll go ahead and lid this up so it can freeze hard in the freezer. We have some pretty good layering. There's a little bit of mixing happening here. Hopefully some of the blue mixes down. I think that would be kind of a fun look with the red mixing up and some blue mixing down. We'll see what happens after they freeze hard.
250 years later.
Okay, it's time to taste. I want to taste each of the individual flavors before I taste the layered combined version. So we're going to go in order of what I think is going to be the most successful flavors. So we'll start at the top, which is the blue raspberry. And after freezing hard, it sort of turned green. That's unexpected. But underneath the green, it's blue. So we're just going to take this top layer of green and pretend like it doesn't exist. And now it's blue. So I don't know if that was some oxidation of the blueberry or what happened there. Green was kind of strange, but we'll go ahead and taste what we're calling blue raspberry. You know, after freezing all the way, it's a lot more blue raspberry than it was before I churned it. So I definitely get the berry notes and a little bit of the tropical from the pineapple. The texture seems fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with this. I just don't know that it's going to stand up to the other two flavors. It's probably going to be the sweetest of the three flavors. Probably could have used a little more blue food coloring too. All right, now we'll try the lime. So before I froze it, there were some bitter notes. It definitely was the most tart of the three, and it is definitely still quite tart. Not overwhelmingly so. Texture-wise, it's not as creamy as the blue layer was, which is kind of surprising because we actually did add more cream than we did for the other two flavors. This one's definitely more of a sherbet texture. The blue was a little more on the ice creamy side. I don't think I would make it to stand alone. I'm really hoping the other two flavors complement it. And finally we have the cherry, which I think will probably be the best of the three flavors. The cherry flavor is actually kind of getting lost. I don't pick up a ton of cherry, and I'm actually getting an almost metallic taste, if that makes sense. Texture-wise, it is definitely pretty much right on sherbet. I wish I knew what that aftertaste was, because that's a little, I don't know, it's a little strange. I don't know that this one would stand alone either. So surprisingly, I would probably rate them in the opposite order of what I thought. The blue was probably the best, and the cherry was I wouldn't even call it the worst. It was the least good. As far as tartness is concerned, it would definitely be this way. The lime is the most tart, the blueberry is the least tart. Okay, now I want to see how they taste together. We did maintain our layers. The blue, again, turned a little bit green, and there was a little bit of blue color dripping down, or not dripping down, but flowing down. Not quite like the red that was going up. It's a firm squeeze, but it is sherbet, so that's to be expected. It's going to be just a little more firm than an ice cream. And I'm going to try and get a scoop that gets the entire cross section. And I think the whole thing might just come out. You know what, that's not bad. And it left behind another scoop that will pretty much get the entire cross section. Time to see how this all tastes together. And again, I'm going to try and get my spoon straight down. I sort of missed the blue a little bit, but try and get relatively equal amounts of red, white, and blue. Okay, those flavors do play pretty well together. Texture-wise, it is firm, like a sherbet would be. This is straight out of the freezer. You could let it sit on the counter for a little bit, for about 5 minutes, and it would soften up quite a bit. And I don't get the metallic aftertaste from the cherry when it's all together. The sweetness and creaminess of the blue layer helps to offset the firmness and the tartness from the lime, the white, and then the cherry. Again, the flavor doesn't stand out. There's nothing special about it, really. It just sort of ties everything together. Flavor-wise, I don't know that I can, identify any particular things happening there, but that's pretty good. Was it worth the effort? I don't know about that. It was quite a bit of, effort to stir up 3, churn it 3 different times, layer it in and let it freeze in between. But for a comparison, and I could have just gone to the store and bought some Bomb Pops, probably would have been the easier move. Instead, I made a simple sorbet of 2 cups of hot water, 3/4 of a cup of sugar, and I froze that and then spun it in the Ninja Creamy. You could do this if you don't have special equipment by freezing it into ice cube trays and then running it through your blender. And then I just added some cherry, lime, and blue raspberry flavoring, as well as the food coloring. So we basically have, it's somewhere between a popsicle and a sorbet. And I don't think it would scoop, so we're going to just dump it into our bowl. Now the red on this one, even though when I froze it, it was a nice deep red, it turned orange, and I'm not sure why that happened either. So we'll get a spoon that has all 3 flavors. This is what I remember a Bomb Pop tasting like. It's like a soft popsicle, like an Otter Pop or a Flavor Ice, after you've let it melt for just a little bit. And that's not surprising, since it is really just sugar, water, and flavoring. That's all a popsicle is as well. But on this one, the cherry tastes like cherry, the lime tastes like lime, and the blue raspberry tastes like schnozberries. But that's my attempt at a Bomb Pop sherbet, as well as a Bomb Pop sorbet, which was a last-minute addition. But, I might make it again. Again, it was a lot of effort for what we're getting out of it. The effort was, I don't know, maybe worth it, probably not, but it was worth a try. Anyway, hope you all have a wonderful Independence Day. Please come back with all 11 fingers, and we'll see you next time. Bye!